Hello and welcome. So I thought that we should do something fun for the guys in web development, and you are wondering how full stack apps are developed using various languages, maybe Node.js on the back end, JavaScript, React.js on the front end, and all of this. So I thought of this. Okay, I'll just show you a working process. Maybe we'll use a timeline of 20 minutes or less. I'll have pauses in between, explain codes in between, and try and see maybe we can get a full stack app up that just reads information from our system with the back end, passes it through some API calls, and output it in our React front end so that you have this feeling of what the development is. This app is not going to involve database calls, authentication, authorization, but it's going to cover JWT, but it's going to cover basic things like how to wire up your back end, how to make API calls, how to prepare your API, and how to ensure that data flows from your back to your front end. So let's get started. For this project, I'm thinking maybe use Fast API for the Python interface because Fast API comes with a default kind of API documentation. You see your payloads and every other thing you need to know inside of it. Then we are going to use Vite to bootstrap our React front end, which is quite faster and more efficient. Then we are going to style using Tailwind CSS. So Tailwind CSS, Vite for the front end, Python and Fast API for the back end. So sounds like a plan. Let's just get started with it. The first thing we want to do, I want to quickly navigate to where I want my app to stay on my desktop. If you are not used to command prompt, um, it's fun. It's always fun whenever we are using command prompt. So I want to make a directory. Let's think about it. Say maybe system details check or something. So we have a directly the system details checker, and I can go into the directory quickly. I'm not teaching a bash command, so I'm going to move fast in this system details checker. So this brings me into the directory for that. And what do I want to do? I want to open up this in my IDE, then start the architecture and the structure of my entire project before I start coding. So I quickly go into open this up in my VS Code, or okay, so it's saying access denied. Let me just pause this video, see what is going on, and I'll come back to this. So we are having an access denied because I was running my command prompt partial commands in a non-admin environment, so it was kicking me out. Let's just go into this and try opening this up in our coding environment. So this should open VS Code up for us. Perfect. VS Code is up and running. We have what we need in front of us. We can see our coding area here, and apart from that, we have our file area to the left and our coding area to the right. So let me just set up the back end and as well set up the front end. So quickly, the back end will just be a folder. We'll pause, do it, and come back to the video. So for the back end, I have my empty folder. This will host my Python and my Flask API code. And for the front end, we want to use React from Vite, as we said. So let's quickly see how we can get this together in the next 30 seconds or so. So we are going to use this. And this is saying for us to use Tailwind CSS, and we want to use Vite. We need to run this command for us to use Tailwind CSS. So you need to have it install Tailwind CSS and set it up this way. So let's follow this documentation and get everything up and running. So it said first thing to do is run this command npm create vite latest project. So a quick notice: if you don't have Node.js installed on your machine, this command, the npm command, will definitely not run. So it said npm create using Vite. We want to create with the latest library, and I'll just call these front end. So it will do its thing and ask a couple of questions. I'll have some pauses in between so that I'll always come back when the video is done. So it's asking, do you want to proceed with latest? I said yes. And it's loading, asking what am I using? Is it React, Vanilla, Servlet, and what kind? Is it JavaScript, TypeScript? So I would say JavaScript. Um, I want an ESLint. So just a couple of yes to all of this, and it's running. So let's just pause and come back when it's done. So we're back. The installation is done, and right now it's telling me that if I go to this address, localhost 5173, the front end is already running, and I should see the default React interface. So let's just do that. Um, localhost 5173, and yes, we have our React interface installed. So our front end area is ready. The foundation is all set. We just need to start wiring things up. So let's focus on our back end. So going back to my code, you quickly see I have this. I have the back end, which is empty. I have the front end, which has all these folders, the node modules, the public, the source, and as we all know, React is an SP application having just a single HTML and let me call this system checker. And components are JavaScript. If you want to know much about React, you can check my videos on YouTube to see what React is. This is one of your main files, your package.json, where you see all the packages you have running and the dependencies you have. So for this is almost done. The next thing I want to do here is I want to um we have gone to this, I've done that. So I want to make sure that in my projects folder for the front end, I want to run this command to install Tailwind CSS for styling. So I'll just use my terminal here in VS Code. I'll just use my terminal in VS Code so I don't go back and forth. I'll do a CD to front end. And in my front end folder, I'll run this command, wait for it to install and get back to the video. So it said the packages are available, install packages, and I think we are good with that. So what is the next step? So this is just purely following documentation. You don't have to have everything up there. So in documentation, it said I'll go to the vit config.js or .ts and I will set up this and set a plugin to use Tailwind CSS. So I'll just locate the file here, and the first thing I need to do is import tailwind.css, and the next thing I need to do is use tailwind.css, and we're good. We're all good. After that, what is the next thing? It's saying we'll go to our CSS file and make sure we are importing Tailwind. So next, I'll go to my source folder. It's always in your source folder, index.css. I take out everything that is there, and I just want to install Tailwind. So if you look at this app, it will look as if it's broken now, but it's not broken. Just that we have cleared out um, the CSS styling file, and yes, we should be good to go. So I think we are done with setting up Tailwind and the front end. So let's focus on the back end before we come back to our front end, connect our APIs and start pulling data. So now we are going straight into the Python aspect with Flask, which is one of the most interesting parts. So I'll write the code, come back, explain it because I don't want the video to extend at most beyond 2 videos. So just stay tuned. And before we do that, we'll just quickly finish up our architecture because it's always a good idea to have all your important files here. Git ignore for your version control. You want to have your .env for your environment variables. You don't want important files to be out there remotely. And after that, it's always a good idea to have a virtual environment for your entire work. So let me take it back a bit so that we'll create a container, more like a virtual environment for what we are doing. So it's we do a Python, we use the -n flag for make. I want to make a virtual environment and we want to call it .venv. So it's easy as that. So this will make a virtual environment for us. You can see it's coming up already. So we'll pause and come back when it's done. So it is done now, and we can move forward. I'll also add a requirement .txt where I will install all my dependencies from I'll move it to my back end at the end of the day. And one more file, very important, as little as it is, .md. So my readme file. So what do we want to do next? We want to ensure that our requirements are all together. We want to use fast API that comes with UVCon, then maybe .env, Python library, and those guys. So let's just put it together. So this is my requirement.txt file. I want to use fast API, uvcom.env, pstutil to get information from my system, then maybe Python multipath to pass data from my front end to back end in different parts. So I want to rearrange most of the files I have here. Let me move this to my back end, move this .env to my back end as well, so that I know it sits in my back end. And I'm envisioning Python files, maybe the main.py, the route.py, and the utilities.py. So let's pause and quickly create those. So I have my main.py now. I just want to go straight into my environment. Then I'll install my requirements as one for this. But if you check, it already did that for me automatically. My VS Code step into that. So I'll just do a Python, a pip install dash r. Want to install requirements. But before we do that, we have to go into our back end. Then we can have our pip install dash r requirements dot txt. So this will install all the Python requirements we need. So we'll pause the video, let it do its thing, and we'll come back to it. So this is done, and we have our requirements all in. It should be in our environment variable, and you can see we have our libraries, our requirements are all there. So we are good. We just want to move on, continue with our Python aspect of the file. So I pasted this code. I'll just try to explain it as much as I can before I start moving things around. So the first part of this is we are importing, like it is in Python. We are using Fast API. So from the Fast API we have, we want to import the Fast API itself that creates the API layer. We want to use some middleware, some calls to avoid to make sure that we are avoiding cross-site scraping and all those security issues about site. We are importing date time so that we can get current system date time. We are using PS2 platform and OS if at all we are going to do something with operating system. Then we are writing modern Python, so I'm using typing and I want dictionary and the any type. So after you import this, you need to create your instance. The first instance, you need to create an instance of your app that you want to run. And the instance of your app comes by calling this constructor object from fast API you have, and maybe it takes a title as one of the arguments. And then we are setting this information for our middleware so that whenever our AP, our applications, the front end and the back end can communicate properly. So one will be running, if we have a front end running on 3000 or 5173, we can allow it fetch data from the back end. But in when you come to production, this is for development. When you're in production server, of course, it will be the IP or address of your production server, and we are allowing credentials. We are allowing some method in production. Be careful when you allow method. We just want to allow a couple of methods. Maybe the post, the put, the get, the patch. It depends on what you want to call on your API, and you can allow headers and other things that you can allow. So the first thing we want to do, this function help us to get the status of the API. So whenever we run this, it gets a status of the API for us by going to the address for the back end and just a slash. we can see a root message that returns and say our API status is running, whether it's running or not. And this will help us get a couple of information from our system. You can say I call it call and get system info. So whenever you are creating a fast API app, you need to first of all create using some decorators. So there are some words I will be using that you just need to study a couple of web technology, especially in Python, to understand them. So using the get method, we want to do this. Using the get method, we want to do this. Whenever you are fetching something, you're using the get method. Whenever you are saving something, you're using the post method. So I might be stopping this video at this time so that we can create another version of it for the part two of this whole course. So I'll see you in the next video.